And we're going to keep it going, so get ready because I don't think you're going to see a more impactful presentation today. Our next speaker doesn't work for Lyft, but he will teach you how to be a lifter, the evolved type of leader that engages today's customers and motivates teams. Paresh Shah is a technology entrepreneur, Harvard MBA, advisor to global leaders, business professor, and mindfulness yogi. He is a positive force around everyone he meets and serves. He runs Lifters, a global leadership and innovation training company, and was recognized by the UN on International Peace Day as a global innovator. Paresh will share the 4 lifter leader mind shifts we all must make in order to engage the modern consumer, motivate teams, and stay relevant. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paresh Shah.
So I was watching this YouTube video with my daughter of these tiny micro robots that some Stanford geniuses have invented. And what's extraordinary about them is they're about the size of Lego blocks, and each can lift 2,000 times its own weight. Here's 6 of them will be pulling a car in just a moment. So I told my daughter, honey, if you could lift 2,000 times your weight, you could lift up a whale. And she said, wow, Dad, that'd be like a superpower. I'd be a superhero. But why would I want to pick up a whale? She had a point. And it got us talking about superpowers and superheroes. What if you did have the power to lift the weight of 2,000 people? Or, what if you were the kind of superhero who could lift 2,000 people's lives just as easily? These kinds of superheroes do exist, and you might be one. There are people like that waiter or that receptionist who just puts a bright smile on everyone's faces who comes in their company. Or that call center rep who knows exactly what to say to convert an irate, confused client into a raving fan for their company. Or that executive who knows, in fact, that we can balance people, planet, profit, and purpose. These are my kind of superheroes. They're positive, they're purposeful, they're creative, compassionate, authentic action takers. And I call us lifters. Lifters. Lifters, yeah. The lifter vibe has been in the house. I mean, give yourself a hand. There's lifters everywhere. I've met so many of you, lifters everywhere. So lifters are everyday, ordinary people who elevate their customers, their coworkers, their community, and their companies. Lifters. Kelly, your chairman, said very clearly as a prelude to this conference, the places we've been are not the places we need to go. So if we're going to engage the modern customer and motivate our teams and truly prosper, we need to elevate our game and evolve as leaders. Because leadership today is really, really broken. Most companies are using outmoded and severely limited ways of leading, and that's why we're here, for a major upgrade. The lifter leadership model that our team has developed simultaneously solves the 4 biggest challenges that organizations are facing today. Engaging the modern customer is especially challenging. Only 52% of people trust companies to do what's right. 52%. That's terrible. Trust is at an all-time low, which in your industry is a real problem. Motivation, big challenge. According to the Society of Human Resources Management, 7 out of 10 workers today are disengaged, leading to huge losses in productivity and workplace stress, especially for the other 3 of us. You're the other 3, I know, that's why you're here. Innovation, huge challenge. We run a global innovation and leadership training company, and 88% of CEOs are unhappy with the pace of innovation in their companies, and most are terrified of being disrupted. and social responsibility. 64% of CEOs feel that the level of social responsibility in their organizations falls short. Lifter leadership helps solve for all 4 of these challenges simultaneously. Lifters are the essential customers you must focus on. They're your most productive workers, and they're the inspiring leaders you need, young or old, in order to grow your business. And together, we, as lifters, are creating a whole new world. Now, I know that sounds like a big statement, and we're here in Texas where things are big, I know. And it might even conjure up notions of Aladdin and flying carpets, a whole new world. And some of you might be thinking, okay, Paresh, let's get real. Let's get real. Let's go back in time and take a look at the new worlds that have been created that we're benefiting from right now. There was a time, not long ago, when you and I would be working dusk till dawn on our small family farms, praying that we'd have enough food to survive. Then, a group of innovative farmers started experimenting with some revolutionary practices. Some thought they were crazy. Hey, let's take the lettuce that your grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents have always planted over here, and let's plant the lettuce over here where the corn has been for like 100 years. And let's take the corn and let's move it over here to where the wheat has been. These practices, like crop rotation and selective breeding, led to the agricultural revolution. This was a whole new world. People could eat en masse like never before. It was never possible. And this new world introduced all kinds of ideas that humans had never dreamed of, like all-you-can-eat buffets, and a personal favorite of mine, because we have 4 kids, the all-you-can-eat unlimited breadsticks and salads at Olive Garden. The idea of an all-you-can-eat buffet was not even an idea in human consciousness. Think about that. It wasn't even an idea. And here we are taking it for granted. So, with this newfound time, people were able to do other things, and they moved to the cities, and labor specialized. Then, a new group of forward-looking thinkers, like Henry Ford, started building things in assembly lines rather than one at a time. People thought Henry was out of his mind, but the companies that understood that something new was happening and hired people who were attuned to this and knew how to automate, how to use steam power, and how to get workers to put more tires onto those cars faster, those companies became the giants of industry, and they ruled the world for decades. Carnegie, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt. Another whole new world was created during the Industrial Revolution, where we could build things, move people, and move ideas. Fast forward to the more recent times, and Curtis gave us a great view of what's happening with technology when he gave us a brief on what's happening with Lyft. The next group of pioneers were the geeks and the nerds, like Curtis. They imagined what was possible. I mean, come on. I mean, he's the ultimate nerd, right? Who else here is a nerd or a geek? Raise your hand high, proudly. Yeah, we got tons of nerds here. Okay. The nerds and the geeks imagined what was possible, created it, and they built their companies. Their companies now run the world. A whole new world where we can do all kinds of amazing things. When I was a kid, the idea of video conferencing was science fiction or something we would see on the Jetsons. And now we regularly train clients all over the world with Zoom or Skype, and it's like a no-brainer. The companies that understood and embraced the change that was happening thrived. And the others, well, they're just not here anymore to tell their stories, are they? We've now entered a new era. One defined by compassion, creativity, connection, and cooperation. Lifters like you get this. And lifters are the ones to lead us this time. They're the new pioneers. And what's happening now, it's new, it's happening now, it's the next level of the game, and I'm telling you here today, it's bigger than the internet. Imagine that, bigger than the internet. It's the age of consciousness. Consciousness. I call it the new wireless. And just like the farmers and the industrialists and the nerds, lifters are heralding in a new era of consciousness which affects every business, every organization, and society at large. Lifters know that you can bring humanity and heart into your businesses, where you lift your company's performance by lifting your customers, your coworkers, your community, and therefore your company's performance rises. And according to the Harvard Business Review, companies that employ conscious leadership practices like lifter leadership perform 10.5 times better. 10.5 times better. Imagine you could do something 10.5 times better. How awesome would that be? This new realm is an order of magnitude better, and this is a place we can go, as Kelly talks about, a place where we've never gone before. Now, I can't say I've always been so zen about positivity and purpose in business. When I was at Harvard Business School 25 years ago, what I was taught, and what we were all taught, was to be very effective at hunting for customers, targeting them, capturing them, segmenting them, so we could have my share, and no one else could have it. No, no, no. That is the model that we have been trained to operate in, scarcity, not abundance. So we asked ourselves, how did this mindset take such a stronghold in human consciousness? What happened here? Well, part of the reason is because of a misunderstanding about Charles Darwin's work. If you ask most people, and I've given keynotes all around the world, what did Charles Darwin teach us? Well, survival of the fittest. Kill or be killed. Dog eat dog. This is what people believe Charles Darwin was here to teach us from his research. But did you know that in his 880-page treatise describing human evolution and what drives human survival, adaptation, and ascension, Charles Darwin only mentioned the word survival of the fittest 2 times. 880 pages, 2 times. Competition. He mentioned the word competition 12 times. When it comes to mutuality and cooperation, Charles Darwin mentions the words 27 times. And guess what word Charles Darwin used 96 times to describe what humans need in order to survive, evolve, and transcend? Love. 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 It's a big mistake. It's a big mistake of Darwin's work, and the world has been operating with this false cognition for hundreds of years. He had a bad PR agent. Maybe we should throw that guy to the lion for all the confusion and suffering he's caused on this planet, huh? Love in business? Love in business? Does that make sense? Well, it has different names. Servant leadership. Compassionate management, triple bottom line, being purpose-driven. So, we've been taught survival of the fittest, competition, scarcity. But what I have learned is that the hunt is over. The hunt is over. Lifters don't need to hunt, target, capture. No, 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 no. There's no need for that. If you're a lifter, lifters attract. Lifters inspire. Lifters serve. And lifters lift. So this is the first of 4 lifter mind shifts which we've identified and that we teach our clients. The hunt is over. The second mind shift, which I'll touch upon today, we call tune or consequences. Tune or consequences. The third mind shift, we say lifters are yes and people. Yes and people. And the fourth mind shift, lifters take Invictus action. For each of these 4 mind shifts, we train our clients with 3 specific skills totaling 12 practices that help cause the mind shifts and reinforce these new lifter habits within them. And as we know from sports, music, surfing, yoga, or any endeavor, that we must practice in order to attain mastery. For example, within the first mind shift of the hunt is over, one of the skills and practices that we teach is called word watching. We teach leaders to be skillful in the words that they use internally and externally in their marketing messages, in their conversations with their clients, in customer service, and within their teams. Because, as Tim McGuire was just saying, our thoughts create our experience. And the words which we allow ourselves to use shape our cognitions. They affect our behaviors, our actions, and ultimately the outcomes for our business. So the outgoing management model is strongly associated with words like hunt, capture, sell, transact. And as a customer, how does it feel to be sold, transacted, targeted, pursued? Yuck. Now, think about how different your relationships and approach would be if you practiced word watching and swapped those words out for words like these: attract, inspire, help. It's a whole new world. The next lifter mind shift we call tune or consequences. Tune or consequences. One of the things that we're finding is that lifters must have integrity and authenticity as a default way of being. And the younger generation today is particularly attuned to authenticity. It's like a whale can hear a song millions of miles away. These folks can smell the BS, can't they? They move naturally towards companies that are authentic and have integrity and demonstrate that they really care. And they naturally just move away. They may not even do it consciously. They just subconsciously say, I can't support that company or that individual. So no longer can a company do nice charitable things with one hand and have nice Instagram pictures with poor children on one side and then treat the environment or treat their workers with disrespect on the other. This generation has no tolerance for that, none whatsoever. At this conference, we've talked a lot with many of you about the struggles that you're having with the millennials and relating to the younger generation as customers or as employees that you need to motivate to grow your business. Some of the words you all used were lazy, entitled, sound familiar? Job hoppers, checked out. Well, if I were a millennial, which if you're wondering, I'm not, I'd be offended. I'd be really offended at this characterization because we're managing these people with ancient practices, and of course they're not going to care. And look, The younger generations have always been criticized by the older generations. When I was a kid, my dad used to say, "These kids today, they're head banging, rock and roll, and watching TV all day." We only had 12 channels. And we had to get up to turn them. And sometimes you'd have to like hold the antenna and stand like this in order to get a good signal. But part of the problem is we're managing people with these outdated, wrong-headed approaches. And every generation has its own values, and lifter leadership is essential to attune to what's happening today because a whole new world is being created as we speak right now. And what I know from working with youth all over the world is that if you give them lifter leadership, you give them a purpose that they really can believe in and sink their teeth into. Show them what integrity and authenticity really feels like, and give them a way to be creatively self-expressed in their own diverse way, like Sandy was talking about, they'll walk on fire for you and deliver huge results. It's a new world, and I know this works. So, for example, within the lifter mind shift of tune or consequences, one of the skills that we teach, we call more than a feeling. More than a feeling. It's about tuning into our intuition and our sense of what the right thing is to do, even if there's no manual, no operating procedure, or no explicit direction from above. Now, we're all very accustomed to our business dashboards and KPIs. They're essential to our business. I've helped tons of CEOs develop these to help manage and navigate their business, and they're very important dashboards. Today, there's another dashboard that we help our clients develop and monitor. And it's a very powerful complement to the quantitative dashboards that most companies use. We help people tune into this other dashboard of their own physical body, its energies, our feelings, and our emotions. And this new dashboard allows us to listen better, to attune to what's right, and intuitively innovate solutions to problems in real time. And what's cool is scientific research is now confirming that our bodily sensations have intelligence of their own that we can tap into to inform our choices, our actions, our responses. Applying techniques from neuroscience and mindfulness practices, we help teams use this intelligence as another way or another tool in their toolkit to elevate their performance. It's really fascinating stuff. This new world of consciousness is bringing together quantum physics, ancient wisdom, neuroscience, and organizational behavior. And if you are really attuned and paying attention, you'll see that if you feel shame, you'll end up looking like Spider-Man. Tune or consequences is ultimately about balancing that practical, analytical, and logical side with the emotional, intuitive, and instinctual. It's powerful stuff. The third lifter mind shift we call lifters having a yes and attitude. Lifters have a yes and attitude. It used to be you'd be asked when you applied for a job, what type of person are you? Are you a quantitative type? Or are you creative? Or are you a people person? And you had to put yourself into a box, and many companies still do that. Lifter leaders and companies who understand what's happening on this planet and want to evolve want yes and people. Rather than be boxed in, lifters say, yes, I am good with numbers, and I'm great with people, and I'm creative. And by the way, I'm learning to surf with a surfboard that was given to me by your former president, Darrell Barbera, one of the biggest lifters I know. This yes and attitude creates innovation. I run a global innovation and leadership training company, and innovation occurs at the intersection of ideas and people. This is why the diversity that Sandy was talking about is so essential. Diversity of thinking, diversity of people is essential to be innovators. One of the skills that we teach within this mind shift is called intersection being. This practice helps individuals and teams find those yes and qualities within themselves and bring them into service within their organizations. When lifters bring all of themselves to work, great things happen. This is Mickey Tonko. He's a great example of the skill of being an intersection being. I was on this red-eye flight. It was a Virgin flight from LA to New York, and a bunch of tired, sleepy passengers, and Mickey was our flight attendant. During the in-flight briefing, Mickey gave us nothing short of a Broadway show when he was giving us the flight safety demonstration. He was singing, he was dancing, he was doing big kicks down the aisle, and he lifted everybody on the airplane. He was delivering a very important, essential message that the FAA requires, and at the same time, he woke everyone up. They paid attention, they were smiling, and they all felt uplifted. So I asked him his background afterwards. I said, what's your deal? And he said, well, Mr. Shah, I'm a flight attendant, and I'm a dancer, and I'm a singer, and I'm an Olympic skater. So Virgin allowed him to tap into his yes and qualities to lift his customers, his coworkers, his community, and ultimately Virgin Airlines. And lastly, lifter mind shift number 4. Lifters take Invictus action. Lifters take Invictus action. Lifters are action takers on purpose. We put our boots on for positive change. We're compassionate activists. We find ways to make change that work for everyone rather than fighting, and finding a difference or a separation between people. One of the practices that we teach within this 4th lifter mind shift of Invictus action, we call redefining victory. After the defeat of apartheid, when Nelson Mandela was the newly elected president of a nation that was fraught with deep racial divisions, he took Invictus action. Among the many initiatives that he took, he worked with Francois Pienaar, who was the captain of the primarily white South African rugby team. And they together redefined victory as this new nation was about to be born. And this redefinition generated a series of actions, small and large, that fundamentally shifted that nation from a threat of civil unrest and division into unification amongst its people. Simple acts, very simple acts. For instance, he had the rugby team go around to the remote villages of South Africa and do drills with the black children within these villages. And in doing so, they seeded the possibility of a unified South Africa and showed the humanity of each side to the other. Invictus was the poem by William Henley, which Nelson Mandela read in his prison cell for 27 years. I encourage you all to read it. It's truly inspirational. It ends with, "It matters not how straight the gate, I am the master of my fate." Tim McGuire said that so eloquently. This is true. And taking Invictus action means no matter how improbable a possibility, with focus, with practice, with support, and with responsive action, it's possible to transform a team, a company, a nation, a world. So, here we are in Texas, where everything is big and grand. So let's review the 4 lifter mind shifts Texas style, and let them hear you and the lifter within you back home wherever you're from. So I'm going to go through the 4 lifter mind shifts, and I'd like you to play along with me. Let's stand up, and I'm going to give you the 4 lifter mind shifts so you'll never forget them. Are we ready? All right, let's get up. All right. Lifter mind shift number 1. I'm going to play it for you, and I want you to do it twice. Lifter mind shift number 1. The hunt is over. Ready? 1, 2, 3. The hunt is over. Again, the hunt is over. Fantastic. All right. Lifter mind shift number 2. Tune or consequences. Ready? Tune or consequences. Once again, ready? Tune or consequences. Excellent. You're doing a great job. Okay, lifter mind shift number 3. Lifters have a yes and attitude. Think about the yes and within each of you that you can bring to your work. Are we ready for this? Lifters have a yes and attitude. Once again, lifters have a yes and attitude. Oh my God, you guys are great. One more. Lifter mind shift number 4. Lifters take Invictus action. So now look, we're in Texas. Some of you got boots on. There's some big boots on this carpet we've been talking about. So are we ready to say what the 4th lifter mind shift is? Lifters take Invictus action. One more time. Lifters take Invictus action. Woo! Fantastic. Give yourselves a big hand. I'm Paresh Shah, and I'm a technologist and a trainer and a yogi and an aspiring surfer, and I am a lifter. By the way, the little whale, which you all have a little remnant of to remind you that you're a lifter, was designed by my little lifter over there. So, if you feel that you might be a lifter, raise your hands in the air and join me in giving yourselves 3 cheers to remind yourself that you're a lifter. And since this is the last talk in this ballroom, let's all stand up and shout out loud, Texas style, I'm a lifter, 3 times after me. 3, 2, 1. I am a lifter! I am a lifter! I am a lifter! Thank you.